Part 33. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 321. Chapter 321, Psychosis in the Fallen Angel Realm. Sushui picked up the dusty stone. As soon as you get the stone. Her heart was torn violently, making her face turn pale. Sushui hissed slightly. She-god? I don't know. Anyway, I haven't heard of any she-god being resurrected. Sushui waved her hand and had no time to pay attention to the Baidi envoy. People in Baidi are all grey-faced and finished. Their prince Baisheng has been deposed and has used up the last power of the divine stone. The first god was not summoned. Only summoned Yan Sushui. Brother Huang will not let him go. Three kings are crazy. He is leading the team this time and is responsible for everything. Brother Huang will not make it easy for him. His eyes suddenly turned red, and he looked at Yan Sushui gloomily. Everything is destroyed by her hands, everything is destroyed by her hands. The three kings suddenly took out a knife from his arms and rushed towards Yan Sushui like crazy. Sushui was right in front of him, and Mrs. Lin screamed suddenly. A flash of silver light. Three kings were pinched by the wrist. Fujuxiao looked at him indifferently, and everyone was startled. The emperor was at least 10 meters away from Yan Sushui. How did appear? Seeking death, Fujuxiao said in a condensed voice. With a click, the three kings' wrists were pinched off. The three kings couldn't help but scream, but Fujuxiao pinched their throats tightly. Fall down silently. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. This is the territory of Dayu, and you are not allowed to be arrogant. Fujuxiao glanced at the audience coldly, and everyone lowered their heads. Fujuxiao's momentum is really strong. The hearts of all countries were shocked. Sushui held the stone tightly. Fujuxiao saw that her expression was not good, so she waved her sleeves and said, "That's it." He took Sushui and left here. The envoys from Baidi were so frightened that they peed their pants. They would die if they went back. How is it possible that there is no Shishin? Is there really no resurrected in the divine world in the past few years? Miss Yan, the little goddess, is it true that no Shishin has been born in the past few years? Sushui paused. She only gave birth to one child. She is a gifted little talker. Authenticated by the Emperor of Heaven himself. He has a special status. After he wakes up, the world of gods will definitely celebrate. Is it true? Baidi's envoy looked at her blankly. Sushui thought about it seriously. Indeed not. There haven't been any grand events in recent years. Well, there was only one peach feast. There was no celebration party. It is said that the peach feast was already the grandest banquet in the past 10,000 years. Even many gods who had been in seclusion for thousands of years were summoned. Sushui was very lucky that the peach banquet was held in the second year of her transformation. Zhang Guang ate a lot of flat peaches. As for the celebration banquet, I have never heard of it. The light in the eyes of the Baidi envoy dimmed. Could the news be wrong? Fujuxiao held Sushui's hand all the way back to the palace. Why is your face so ugly? But why, are you uncomfortable? Fujuxiao's eyebrows were slightly lowered. Who knows, his heart was lifted. Since Baidi was about to invite the god of creation, Sushui stood on the high platform, and Fujuxiao's whole body was tense. Sushui opened her palms. Her palms were red because she exerted too much force. This stone is so strange, I feel the original power of this world. Baidi, what you said may be true. Maybe it's really the remains left by the creator god. Fujuxiao felt the faint breath on the stone, and her breathing suddenly stopped. He seemed to have been choked by someone, his eyes were hot, and he was staring at the stone and speechless. He almost trembled and held the stone in his palms. His eyes were a little red, and he took a deep breath before reluctantly saying, "Really?" His eyes were looking at Sushui. Sushui raised his voice. But there's something strange about it. In the past few years, the god realm has not given birth to any gods, really not. I'm the only one who was born and raised. And what appears in the picture is not the 9 heavens, but my bedroom. I will only tell you one person, not others. That's my residence. Sushui patted her heart, making a thumping sound. Believe me, that is my palace, not the 9th heaven. Fujuxiao hummed softly, I believe you. That's Sushui's home. What is Sushui's home like? Fujuxiao's voice trembled slightly, but Sushui didn't hear anything strange at all. Sushui smiled and bent her eyes. The Emperor of Heaven is a good man. He said that I was born with no parents, no one to teach me, and he was afraid that I would be a bad learner. So I found a quiet place. When I was a stone tablet, it was very lively. Later, after I successfully transformed, the palace was quiet. Only the doorkeeper and the maidservant were with me. So boring. But the Emperor of Heaven is afraid that I will be a bad learner and will not allow me to run around. Later I said, you are afraid that I will be a bad learner without the guidance of my parents. How about I accept you as my father? Alas, the Emperor of Heaven doesn't know what's going on, and has a look of horror on his face. He will pull him down if he doesn't like it. Sushui was a little bit angry. Later, maybe it was because I often sneaked out. He allowed me to go out and found a street wanderer to accompany me. Do you know what a street wanderer is? He just hangs around all day and has nothing to do. It's called Kyang 11. Fujuxiao twitched her eyelashes. Kyangzi. The most promising youngest son of the Emperor of Heaven. He is feared by the demon realm and the fallen angel realm, and is known as a candidate for the Emperor of Heaven. It is said that he patrolled the god realm at a young age and was very famous in the god realm. Street wanderer, Fujuxiao raised his eyebrows lightly. Sushui nodded her head vigorously, yes, I have nothing to do all day long. When those gods saw him, it was like a mouse seeing a cat. I doubt it. Sushui lowered her voice and said seriously in Fujuxiao's ear. I suspect that he is collecting protection money outside. Fujuxiao laughed out loud. The most talented young generation in the god realm probably climbed up the ranks after passing 5 levels and killing 6 generals. In your eyes, he is just a street kid. That's right, the maids who serve tea and water are in charge of the 4 seasons. The of war is the gatekeeper. It's really boring to walk around with that kid. By the way, I met a fool before I transformed. That silly guy seems to be from the fallen god realm. His aura is impure and he is not from the god realm. I guess there is something wrong with my brain. I often sneak through the gate of the god realm and come to my stone tablet to stare in a daze. Every time he looked at the stone monument, I felt like I was being penetrated by his gaze. He looked nervous a few times. He even cried while looking at the stone monument, saying that I was waiting for you. The smile on Fujuxiao's face faltered. Nervous? Sick to your brain? I always thought he wanted to steal the stone tablet. Sushui looked certain. If I see him next time, I will definitely call him a thief. Fujuxiao. Long silence. Sushui rolled his eyes and said, Brother Juxiao, you are well informed. Have you heard about the god of creation? I have never heard of it. Sushui raised the corner of her mouth. It's really strange. When she was a stone tablet, she had stood in the god realm for several years and had never heard of the god of creation. Fujuxiao's eyes darkened. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 322. Chapter 322. The first God created the world. Creation God. Fujuxiao's voice was slightly heavy. You want to know about him? Sushui nodded her little head. I heard that he was the true founder of the 3 realms. Then where did he go after he established the 3 realms? Fujuxiao felt a slight pain at the tip of his heart. He is anywhere in the three realms. Fujuxiao's voice was a little erratic, as if he had returned to the long river of time. Sushui looked at him in confusion. He is in the sky, under your feet, in the wind, in the rain, and on every inch of land you can see, Fujuxiao said softly. Did you know that we are just a small world in the void world? There are 3,000 big worlds and 3,000 small worlds in the void world. The first consciousness that our world gave birth to is him. Tens of thousands of years, a pair of light clusters were born in the void. One white, one black, like a pair of yin and yang fish, floating in the void. He is white, representing love and justice. He is the first source of power. When he was conceived, the entire three realms were desolate and chaotic. The world is big, but there is only him. He is too lonely. Fujuxiao's voice was trembling. Later, he forcibly catalyzed the black light group. The black light group, Fujuxiao paused. The void is fair and everything is opposite. One black and one white represent justice and evil. They have been together for tens of thousands of years. They are black and white, yin and yang fish. White is good and black is evil. He catalyzed blackness and transformed it into human beings. The evil spirits accompany her every day, accompanying her through every day, wandering around without knowing the time or place. Fujuxiao's heart ached slightly. One day, he got tired of living like this. Sushui shouted loudly, I know. He squeezed the clay figure later, right, she had read it in the Genesis book. She always thought it was a compiled story. Fujuxiao nodded and looked at her with pity. He patted her head gently. He pinched a man with clay and breathed on him. That man was the Emperor of Heaven. Of course, after several years of practice, the Emperor of Heaven already has an invincible golden body. Later, he was tired of squeezing and accidentally dropped the soil on the golden vine. He shook the golden vine at will, and countless clay figures fell to the ground and turned into spirits and mortals. He was very happy. He used the cane to throw out many people. This is also the reason why mortals have different looks. Because, Shi Shen did throw him away very casually. Fujuxiao couldn't help laughing, even he was thrown away several times. But what he threw out was still a ball of mud. He is the god of destiny. Occasionally, when she is in a good mood, she will make some beautiful and exquisite clay figurines herself. As long as she doesn't blow on them, she becomes immortal. When she blows on them, she will have fairy bones and spiritual power. In order to take care of things, he created many spiritual little gods. Now, they are all beings worshipped by others. Fujuxiao seemed to be lost in memories and was in a daze. Sushui pushed him. What happened next? Then Shishin, why did he die? Fujuxiao looked a little depressed. As the years pass, mortals recuperate and gradually become larger and larger. They will pray for the blessing of the first god, and the first god will respond to them without exception. The Shi god is very powerful and does not care about the thoughts of mortals. But there are more and more mortals, and they begin to ask for more. They would compete with each other and plot against each other for the blessing of the first god. The first god was a little tired. He began to stay away from the mortal world and was managed by the Emperor of Heaven and others. This was also the original god realm. But at that time, it was just a grassroots team. Mortals are very fragile. They are born, old, sick and die, and their lives are short. But they are also very strong, and if they get a chance, they will pass it on like a star burning a prairie fire. There are many dangers in the void world. This small world often faces dangerous beasts every time. All the little gods and the mortal world have to resist together, and Hui suffers heavy losses. The mortal world has grown larger and larger, but this simple little world has begun to be unable to meet their needs. Fujuxiao sighed. The god of the beginning is called the beginning god. He is destined to open up all of this. Besides, he is the true love. Fujuxiao sighed slightly. He has never been the virgin heart, he has the true creation spirit. He loves the three realms and will not favor anyone. His gaze will only fall on the three realms. It will not fall on him. Fujuxiao was silent for a moment. Later, the ferocious beasts in the void realm could often feel the rich aura of this world and attacked aggressively. The three realms were severely damaged. After a fierce attack, Shi Shen. He called me, and called evil spirits to me. It was an ordinary afternoon, and everything was dark. By the way, there was no sun or moon at that time, and everyone lived by the aura of the void. The captured void beasts are food. It's such a mess, there's no stability like now. He smiled at the evil spirit and said, "You are free. One black and one white are both conceived by the void. In fact, if he wants to leave, he can leave at any time." But he didn't want to, because he knew that he was here to follow her from the beginning to the end. He said, "Let there be light." His left eye turned into a divine light and rushed towards the empty night sky, lighting up the void, but this power made the void beasts afraid, and they retreated all the way. Until that light turns into a tomorrow and hangs above everyone's head. He said, the white became light and the moon became shadow, and his right eye became a bright moon. At the same time, the sun and the moon alternate, and they only appeared once at the beginning of the world. He said that gods should stay away from mortals and monsters should stay away from humans. He divided heaven and earth and divided the three realms. Although mortals have no divine power and their power is the weakest, no one in the mortal world dares to underestimate it. With his protection, the void beast cannot enter the small world. Mortals cannot capture food, so her blood turns into mountains and rivers and the earth, and her breath turns into wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, nourishing the common people. He transformed himself into a shred of the three realms. Baidi's physical strength is also because the ancestors of their lineage picked up a broken bone from the beginning of the sky and buried the broken bone. The first god was able to enter the earth and give back to them the creation of a strong body. Fujuxiao pinched the white stone. "This is already a real stone." Sushui nodded clearly, "So, this is the grace of burial. Now the grace has ended, and the stone is broken into pieces. But why do they say that the god of the first time was reconceived? Didn't the god of the first time turn into mountains, rivers, earth, and the sun, moon and stars?" Sushui looked up at Fujuxiao. "I really want to see the first god. Does he have 3 heads and 6 arms, is he different from us?" Sushui looked curious. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 323. Chapter 323 shocked my whole family. 3 heads and 6 arms, Fujuxiao chuckled and looked at her with a smile. "That's not true, he looks very well behaved." Fujuxiao stared at her quietly. "She in this life is his true appearance. Yes, he is so unoffensive and looks so soft and vulnerable. Don't be deceived by her appearance." In the void world, the group of void beasts and other gods from other small worlds were beaten until they vomited blood. Perhaps, those in the god realm have thought of a way. But Fujuxiao had a cold look in his eyes. Actually, he went to the god realm back then. At that time, he had been following the she god, and all the gods thought that he was the orthodox god. But how come you won't notice any difference over time? They want to support the gods with respect and reverence. But I just want to embrace the gods. His eyes were filled with waves of love that could not be hidden. In that boundless darkness, there were only 2 of them in the whole world. He was born for the 3 realms. But he was born for her. "You are for the world, I am only for you." He was later expelled by that group of people. After she successfully transformed, she has been following her through all kinds of calamities. He originally thought that he was expelled because he had committed blasphemy. But I found that maybe It is the group of people in the God realm who have developed their minds. Fujuxiao suppressed the anger in her heart. Emperor of Heaven, he took the initiative? Oh, how come I didn't know that he secretly resurrected the first god? Sushui stomped her feet angrily. Is it really pregnant? Fujuxiao rubbed her head. Do you think there is peace in the three realms now? Sushui wrinkled her face and said, is it peaceful? It's quite peaceful. Both the demon realm and the fallen angel realm are quiet, the mortal world is recharging its energy, and the god realm still dominates the three realms. Since there is peace, tell me, why did they give birth to the first god? Do they want the first god to experience this peaceful world? Sushui was stunned. Exhausting the power of the three realms to reawaken the Shishin seems unnecessary. From Fujuxiao's words, Sushui could understand that the Shishin didn't care about enjoyment. Had he cared, he would not have died as a martyr. Then what is the god realm doing to awaken the first god? Is there a catastrophe in the three realms? Fujuxiao pursed her lips. Who knows? I just hope that she can live the life she wants for once, instead of giving everything for the three realms again. She doesn't owe the three realms. Sushui muttered, thinking in her mind that when she returned to the god realm, she would definitely ask the Emperor of Heaven what he meant. Just as he was talking, there was movement at the door of the hall. Your Majesty, the Queen Mother has returned to the palace and is waiting for you in the front hall. The prince's face trembled, and the Queen Mother was a little angry. Fujuxiao pressed his eyebrows. He knew the Queen Mother's thoughts as soon as he heard it. I also want to see the Queen Mother. Sushui smiled. Fujuxiao knew that she was here to see a good show, and seeing her smiling brightly, he could only let her go. You naughty guy. Fujuxiao tapped her forehead hard. Sushui chuckled and followed behind. Your Majesty, please be careful. You left the table suddenly, and the Queen Mother looked ugly. During today's discussion, many married women tacitly brought their daughters of suitable age with them. But when the Emperor suddenly left the table, how could the Queen Mother not be angry? Before he even reached the door, he heard the angry voice of the Queen Mother. You still know how to call me Queen Mother? The AI family feels that the palace is deserted. You have been looking for someone to sing for the AI family for 3 days, and the AI family is almost deaf. The AI family just wants to marry you a daughter-in-law, don't you? If you want to decide on the position of queen, how about you accept 2 concubines first? The AI family wants to have a grandson. What's wrong? The Queen Mother started to cry as she spoke. You have been on the throne for 4 years, and men of your age have several children. Can the AI family still have a grandson? The AI family won't be able to have a grandson until they die, right? The Queen Mother looked angry. Fujuxiao looked at her seriously and replied seriously, with the longevity of my mother, I can hold her in my arms before she dies. When the Queen Mother heard this, she became even more angry. Princess Wei covered her mouth and her shoulders shook. She took Sushui and hid in a corner to watch the show. You have remembered cousin Shen from your mother's family since you were a child. She is almost an old girl waiting for you. You don't think much of her, just let her be Zai and Shenze. Princess Huiyi frowned. Shen Aoxu hasn't given up yet. The Queen Mother's maiden name is Shen, and Shen Aoxu is her niece. Sushui felt that the name sounded familiar. Oh, isn't that the arrogant girl who went to Xiashan County to beg Mr. Lu to become her disciple? There was a lot of conflict with her at that time. I hate Shen Aoxu. She was Yan Jiaojiao's lackey back then. After Yan Jiaojiao stepped down, she added insult to injury. Every day I see you, I act like you want to be my sister-in-law. She is not worthy of my royal brother. Princess Wei rolled her eyes. Fujuxiao was immediately happy. Shen Aoxu? Are you talking about that idiot with the eyeballs on his forehead? Mother, she can dispel all my fantasies about women. Speaking of her, I will never have to marry again in this life. The Queen Mother panicked, and her mother-in-law couldn't help her. She thought that marrying her niece would ensure her prosperity for the rest of her life. But no matter how good her mother's family is, how can it compare to her son's? The Queen Mother immediately said, "Let's not mention the Queen Mother. We will ask her to marry her tomorrow." But you can't coax the Queen Mother all the time. How can the Queen Mother not be anxious when half of her feet are stuck in the lid of the coffin in this life? Life is not good either. Her natal family is weak, and she is not favored by her natal family. Originally, the eldest sister was going to enter the palace, but on the eve of entering the palace, she was replaced. Originally, he was sent to the palace to make ends meet, and he thought he was destined to be cannon fodder. Who knew that he would give birth to a son to live up to his reputation, and finally sit in the back seat? There is no talent in the family, and Fujuxiao cannot tolerate it in his eyes. The Shen family has reached its upper limit in this life. You can only start from the harem. Now, I can only give up the idea. Shen Aoxiu is nothing compared to her son. Seeing Fujuxiao and the Queen Mother parting ways unhappily, Princess Wei and Sushui looked at each other and saw the sadness in their eyes. Fujuxiao glanced at Yan Sushui, who was hanging up her sleeve because it had nothing to do with him, and made a mental calculation. "Mother, I have a secret that I haven't told you." Fujuxiao took a deep breath. The Queen Mother's eyes were red. "Even if you say that you want to break the sky, you still have to accept a girl. Otherwise, the Queen Mother will be killed in the Chengtian Hall. I must apologize to the ancestors of Daewoo." Fujuxiao whispered, looking a little disappointed, "Mother, have you ever seen that there are maids among the attendants around my son?" The Queen Mother hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. Almost all men around him were men, and the one named Kyanki had an even better appearance. Fujuxiao looked deeply at Sushui. He really paid too much. "Actually, I like men." The Queen Mother swayed and almost fell to the ground. "What did you say? What did you say?" The Queen Mother almost went crazy and collapsed. She was trembling all over. "Oh, ancestors of Dai Viet, I am a sinner. Mother, it's true. I don't like women whenever they come near me, I feel disgusted. Mother, I am still unable to overcome my psychological barrier, but I promise to try my best to get married within 7 years. Please give me another 7 years, Queen Mother. In 7 years, the ears and hairpins will grow." The Queen Mother looked at him blankly. The Emperor liked men. Sushui was also stunned, looking as if she had been struck by lightning. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 324. Chapter 324 Fujuxiao's Sweetheart. The Queen Mother left in anger. When he walked, his face was broken and he was swaying as he walked, looking like he had been severely injured. She didn't even dare to look at Fujuxiao. The more she looked at him, the more sad she became. Princess Wei was worried about the Queen Mother and hurriedly chased her out. Sushui glanced at Fujuxiao, then secretly looked away. Looked at it again, and then looked away. Looking like he wanted to take a peek and was curious. Fujuxiao's eyelids twitched. "If you have something to say, just say it. Look at you squirming around so much that it gives you a headache." Sushui chuckled, then paused, and then she asked mysteriously, "Brother Juxiao, you said you hate women, but Sushui is also a woman, why don't you hate Sushui?" Fujuxiao was very happy. Is this guy actually about to get enlightened? Same, this is a girl who is turning 9 years old near the end of the year. Before Fujuxiao could speak, he heard Sushui say, "That's right, Brother Juxiao doesn't like women, so he must regard Sushui as his brother." The little face looked solemn. Fujuxiao. Happiness for nothing. Sushui sighed, "Brother Juxiao, do you consider Sushui a brother? You never told Sushui that you like men. Sushui can cover for you, but you have kept it secret for so long." Sushui. Sui looked angry. Fujuxiao couldn't explain clearly with her mouth. Fujuxiao opened his mouth and closed it again. Brother Juxiao, I never like men. What cover is there? My sweetheart is a beautiful girl, but she doesn't have me in her heart yet. Fujuxiao glanced at her. The lag of the panicle. My sweetheart, Sushui was stunned. That's right, brother Juxiao didn't tell you. I have a sweetheart whom I've been in love with for a long time. I'm just waiting for her to wake up and see me. Fujuxiao sighed when he saw her dumbfounded eyes and clear eyes. Helplessly holding his forehead, he just waved his hand and said, let's not mention this. Brother Juxiao's sweetheart is not willing to marry me for the time being. The Queen Mother only wants me to get married. I am afraid she will be uncomfortable for a long time this time. She likes Sushui, please trouble Sushui. Sui Duo advised the Queen Mother, Brother Juxiao, thank you Sui. Sushui said oh. She opened her mouth, but suddenly closed it again. When I walked out of the palace, the only words left in my ears were, I have a sweetheart, I have a sweetheart. Why, I'm a little sad. Sushui felt that her heart was heavy and uncomfortable. She raised her hand and gently placed it on her heart, which seemed to be stuffy and swollen, but she couldn't tell why. The feeling of loneliness as if she was the only one left in the world was extremely sour. Sushui wanted to catch that strange emotion, but in an instant, it disappeared without a trace. Sushui was startled. She tilted her head and was confused for a moment. Strange, the sad feeling disappeared? The loneliness that penetrated deep into my bones also disappeared. She wanted to recall that feeling, but she couldn't get it back, as if something was suddenly lost. It's weird. Sushui murmured and walked towards the Queen Mother's palace. The nuns outside the main hall were already stamping their feet anxiously, but the Queen Mother did not want to see them and drove them all out. Little princess, it's a good thing you're here. The Queen Mother just came back from His Majesty's palace. Her face was full of exhaustion, but she didn't let her servants accompany her. She shut herself up in the palace without saying a word. Please go and have a look, please, Mammy said. When he saw Sushui, he knelt down directly. Sushui hurriedly helped her mother up. She was the old woman beside the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother entered the palace at a young age. Even when she had several opportunities to leave the palace, she never left and stayed with the Queen Mother. I'll go take a look, don't worry, Mama. Sushui glanced at Mama's face. If you have time, Mama, go to the Imperial Medical Office to have a look at your liver. Mammy was stunned for a moment, but Sushui had already entered the palace. Before I walked in, I heard the suppressed cry of the Queen Mother. Sushui stood outside the door and sighed. Princess Wei seemed to be persuading her, but the Queen Mother remained silent and only let her go out. Princess Wei pushed open the door and walked out, her eyes red. I have never seen my mother so sad. Sushui is not good at persuading people, I'll go take a look first. He nodded towards Princess Huiyi and pushed the door open. Why are you still here? Your eldest brother doesn't want to get married, so what's the use of my life? The world of Dai Viet will be wiped out, and the foundation of Dai Viet will be destroyed in the hands of the AI family. How can Ijia spend so much effort to raise him? How can he like men? Anyone can like him, but he can't. The Ijia are the sinners of the ages, the whole world of Dai Viet. Sushui blinked her eyes and whispered, but only what you want is the best. If he doesn't like it, wouldn't it be a lifetime of pain if you give it to him? Sushui unexpectedly thought of Fujuxiao again. Things about your sweetheart. Is he protecting his beloved? That's why you said you like men? He doesn't want the Queen Mother to know that he is waiting for his sweetheart. Is he afraid that the Queen Mother will implicate his sweetheart? Humph, I even kept it a secret from myself. Perhaps it's because you're ugly that you hide it and don't dare to say it. Sushui felt sour in her heart. It's too cold to be in a high place, and he seems unhappy as an emperor. Wouldn't it be even more painful if he married someone he didn't like again? Then what's the point of this life? Sushui said softly. The Queen Mother originally lowered her head and shed tears, but at this moment, she suddenly stopped crying. She was stunned for a moment and looked at Sushui with tears on her face. She seemed to be thinking of the young Fujuxiao again. At that time, he was an unpopular prince. My natal family is a noble family, famous but not powerful. Support her to become queen, the royal family will gain fame, and her family will gain power. But no one asked her if she was happy. She was in pain every day. She was not favored by the late emperor, and she only felt that the palace was a prison. Even after giving birth to Fujuxiao and Huiyi, the two children had an extremely difficult life. Obviously he was born to the empress of the main palace, but he always had to avoid His Highness the King of Jin, who was born to a noble concubine. When Fujuxiao was 3 years old, he even said bluntly, he hated the palace and everything in it. What about yourself? Give him a slap. Since then, he has never said this again. I just study harder and become more taciturn. The throne, is he what he wants? No. If he doesn't want it, he will be exterminated by the Jin King's gang. If he doesn't want it, as the queen of the main palace, he will definitely be treated like a noble concubine. The Queen Mother's tears fell again, but she was crying silently at this moment. She shed tears softly. My prince has never been happy. I don't even know what he wants or likes. At this moment, the Queen Mother refused to even talk about the AI family. How she hoped that she and her children could just be ordinary people. Ordinary family. The Queen Mother wiped her tears. He is capable, and Igia believes that he can settle everything. But Igia also wants to have a grandson. Do you know Mrs. Lin, the Queen's nemesis and the mother of Prince Jin? The original imperial concubine. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 325. Chapter 325. Find a stepfather for Fujuxiao. After the death of the late emperor, the concubines who were childless in the palace were originally supposed to be buried as sacrifices. But after Sushui came to Beijing to plead for mercy, the concubines were sent to the temple to pray for blessings. Fujuxiao was also happy to make Sushui famous, so he hired 4 or 5 imperial chefs who were good at cooking vegetarian dishes, and bought 2 mountains behind the temple. Many guards were assigned to be on duty day and night to protect the safety of the concubines. They are the face of the royal family and can be buried, but they cannot lose their reputation. If an accident occurs, it will be nothing more than a piece of white silk. Fujuxiao sent guards, which happened to save the concubines. There are mountains, water, and delicious food. Fujuxiao also sends people to give gifts during the holidays. When he leaves the palace, he does not give any food and clothing, but only the most affordable money. Zhou is only a few dozen taels per person, and he can make a lot of income in a year. Even this represents the attitude of the emperor, and no one dares to bully him. Those concubines lived a wonderful life. Having sons and daughters, like concubine Lin, she was picked up by the king of Jin who was leaving the palace. Speaking of which, when she was young, the queen mother and concubine Lin fought to the death. Concubine Lin was favored by the late emperor, but the empress lost completely. Even the title of prince will be thrown away. Who knew that Fujuxiao was a born emperor? For the sake of his cousin concubine Lin, the late emperor specially gave birth to Prince Jin and allowed him to receive royal education. After she was raised extremely well and satisfied all the civil and military officials of the court, she gave birth to a prince. The prince and the king of Jin are more than 10 years apart. When the prince was born, the king of Jin was already married. When King Jin took over the government, the prince had just learned to walk. Everyone thought that the prince was a cannon fodder, and everyone avoided him. Even the queen's natal family, the Shen family, gave him a cold shoulder. He was deeply afraid that he would be implicated when he was deposed. Who knows? He went to the battlefield to fight for military glory when he was only a few years old, and won the respect of the generals abruptly. And extremely intelligent. Everyone's praise for King Jin seemed to have changed as Fujuxiao grew up. He has a clear eye and a photographic memory. He is a 100% genius. It only took him a few years to catch up with the more than 10 years gap with King Jin. From then on, the imperial concubine suffered a complete defeat. Until Fujuxiao succeeded to the throne, she could have taken care of her old age in the harem, but she firmly followed King Jin out of the palace. Over the years, the only thing I have lost to this old is my heir. The queen mother wiped her tears unwillingly. Her eldest grandson Fu Wujiang and her youngest grandson Fu Wulin are both almost grown. And me, at this age, I haven't even had a grandchild. Sushui, do you know what the Ijia think about all day long? The Ijia even hold a fat baby in their dreams. The queen mother began to cry again. Queen mother, you have worked really hard these years. Sushui handed the queen mother a veil. The late emperor had a cousin he liked since he was a child, but you are not liked by the Shen family. You have taken the position of your eldest sister in the palace, and your natal family is unwilling to help. I don't know how much anger you have suffered in the palace these years. Alas, a woman's most beautiful 28 years have been wasted. The queen mother looked a little dazed when she thought of the suffering she had suffered in those years. The years are just right, but they are spent in despair day by day. Even the 2 children given by the late emperor were just like charity. I have never had any admiration for you. Even with 2 children, life is not good, and they are insulted by others. You're fine now. The late emperor died early. Your body and bones are good and you've taken good care of yourself in the past few years. If you don't say your age, you look only 30 years old. Sushui is not exaggerating at all. She fed the queen mother and Mrs. Lin from the spiritual spring of space for several years to keep themselves healthy. Their faces look much younger than their peers. Last time Mrs. Lin entered the palace, she was so angry that she gritted her teeth when she saw the queen mother. The queen mother stroked her cheek, and there was no wrinkle on her face. To put it into perspective, the Ai family took the place of their eldest sister, entered the palace at the age of 14, and gave birth to Juxiao at the age of 25. Juxiao is now 18, and the Ai family is already 43. No way, you look to be in your early 30s at most. It's just that the clothes you wear are old-fashioned. If you dress younger, you will look better. Maybe the little brothers outside are watching. Without blinking, Sushui said seriously. The queen mother couldn't help but laugh at her. You have such a little mouth, I wonder who will be lucky enough to marry you back. Thinking of Sushui's martial arts skills, the queen mother couldn't help but smile. I don't know which of the great enemies I will marry back. The nuns outside the door vaguely heard the queen mother's laughter and breathed a sigh of relief. Sushui is not trying to make you happy, you are naturally good looking. It's because the late emperor has bad eyesight and likes the brightly colored concubine Lin. Concubine Lin has a gorgeous appearance, the kind of beauty that is very aggressive. The queen mother is gentle and generous, like the gentle temperament of the Jiangnan water town. The queen mother's eyebrows were slightly smiling. Why do you have to stick to having a grandson? You are already the queen mother who cares about the world, and your son is the emperor. You can speak the truth in the court and have almost no worries. You can completely live the life you want. In the past, the late emperor did not like him, but now he is dead. Isn't this a good thing? There is a common saying in the world, promotion and wealth come at the expense of getting a wife. If you become the queen mother, your son will be the emperor, the late emperor will also die, and there will be no harem. People are causing trouble for you, isn't it because your good days have come? Why are you holding a grandson? You look still young. It's better to put on the clothes of youth and think about whether there was a young master you admired when you were young, whether there was a missed marriage, and whether you can continue to write a new relationship. If I can't hold a grandson, I'll just have one myself. The Queen Mother was stunned for a moment by what she said. Thinking about it this way, now is indeed a good day for me. But thinking of what Sushui said about having another child, she suddenly blushed. You girl, you are so courageous. If you allow the Queen Mother to have another child, wouldn't you be cuckolding the late emperor? The Queen Mother laughed and scolded her. Oh, I'll just give up. Sushui smiled. As for cuckolds, there are more than 30 concubines, but the late emperor only liked concubine Lin. Those girls stayed alone in the boudoir, despairing day after day, wasting their years day after day. Who does he mean? Now. You are the one who calls the shots. He is lying quietly in the imperial mausoleum. He didn't accept it, so he jumped up. Sushui smiled. The Queen Mother couldn't help but laugh out loud. It was really beautiful. You girl, you have your own set of ideas. There is no thought of relying on men at all. The Queen Mother's eyes moved slightly, and Sushui even smiled and pulled the Queen Mother to the palace. Search out the clothes that the Queen Mother had no longer worn in the past few years. You can't wear that anymore, the color is too tender. Since becoming the Queen Mother, the AI family has never worn it. The Queen Mother waved her hands, but her eyes fell on the sky blue dress. What woman doesn't like to be pretty? She did not dare to wear it when she was young, and she did not want to wear it. The late emperor didn't like it, so who would she wear it for? When she was finally able to wear them, the late emperor passed away and she was upgraded, so she could only wear old-fashioned clothes. Wearing white clothes makes you look 10 years older. Sui saw that the Queen Mother was moved and thought, I still know how to persuade people. Brother Juxiao will definitely praise me. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 326. Chapter 326, The coffin board can't be held down anymore. Why can't I wear it? Besides, this is not goose yellow, green, light pink, or other tender colors. Sushui shook her head in disapproval. Azure is inherently mature. What you wore in the past was too old-fashioned, and you looked like you were in your 70s or 80s all day long. This color is just right. The Queen Mother is born with fair skin, which many women would envy. It goes perfectly with the sky blue material. Wow, your waist is really thin. You look like you are 30 at most. The Queen Mother suffered a lot when she was young, but she was only in her teens at the time and recovered well due to her young age. In recent years, I have been pampered and taken care of myself, and I have been nourished by spiritual springs. I do look much younger. At this moment, Sushui changed her body color to a slightly brighter color, and her whole person was completely different. Sushui didn't know how to style her hair, so she just gave her a bun. Although it was simple, it made the Queen Mother look extremely gentle. On the contrary, it formed a huge contrast with the complicated hairstyle in the past. Standing in front of the bronze mirror at this moment, she looks like a gentle little woman. Now that life is so good, why are you struggling with yourself, right? You have survived the hardships in the past, and now you should enjoy life more. Your Majesty is extremely enlightened. He can arrange the concubines who should have been buried properly. If you really want to have another one, His Majesty will not stop you. He can even block the mouths of the world. Sushui looked at the Queen Mother with a smile. The Queen Mother waved her hand. Ijia, you have to guard the harem for him and sit in charge for him. If Ijia really gives birth, he will be punished by people. As long as the AI family does not have children, what can happen? I have to say that as long as she thinks of the late emperor lying in the imperial mausoleum, she can't wait to find one immediately. Speaking of which, she actually had a fiancé when she was still young. The mother is a descendant of the Shen family. Although she is the legitimate daughter, she is not as good as the legitimate sister born to the previous mistress. Since my eldest sister lost her mother, everyone in the family favored her. Since her mother was a stepmother, it was difficult for her to interfere. When my mother was young, she had a handkerchief, and she was the third lady of Dingguo Haofu. The third wife has a young son who is 2 years older than her. The two of them were childhood sweethearts and grew up together. Later, the wives of the two families made a verbal agreement and arranged a baby wedding for the two children. Just wait until after haircut to get married. Unexpectedly, in the 14th year of his life, his sister-in-law refused to enter the palace, so she knelt down in front of her father. She obviously looked down upon herself, so she knelt down. At that moment, only she understood that she was forcing herself. Sure enough, her father asked her to enter the palace on behalf of her sister. Even, the baby relationship was not publicized and was directly invalidated. My mother was weak, so she knelt outside her father's door for a whole day and a night. Her father did not let her go until she passed out. What can Dingguo Ho Mansion do? They did not dare to confront the imperial power and could only keep this matter in their hearts. Later, on the day she entered the palace, the young man followed her. With heavy snow falling, he stood at the entrance of the palace and personally watched her walk towards the deep palace. The queen mother later learned that he had never married, and he did not agree to the marriage until the third lady knelt in front of him in tears. At that time, it had been 10 years since she entered the palace. In those 10 years, she was not favored, could not conceive, and had a difficult time. He was also guarding her return. Later, she stopped paying attention. Because in the 12th year, she was pregnant with Fujuxiao and had too much time to take care of herself. How could she take care of all this? All I know is that the girl was weak and later gave birth to a son, which caused the disease. After 3 years of lingering in bed, he finally passed away. Since then, it seems that he has never married a wife and only raised his children by himself. The Queen Mother, please don't wear such old-fashioned clothes in the future. Don't worry about Brother Juxiao, it won't be more than 7 years at the latest. Didn't he say that he will get married? Brother Juxiao never promises anything, but once he does, he will definitely do it. Do it, the Queen Mother thought for a moment and nodded. 7 years is nothing. The Queen Mother had a cheerful smile on her brows. The former Queen Mother seemed to have lost her heart and only thought about the Emperor's heirs. Now, she is more like her original self. After the Queen Mother calmed down, she allowed the nuns to come in. After the nuns came in, their eyes lit up, and they all kept praising the Queen Mother. My dear lady, it's great that you are so open-minded. You used to be so lifeless, and this old slave is so worried. Seeing the Queen Mother's brows relaxed, Mammy couldn't help but shed tears. Little princess, I thank you very much. I owe you a favor. I sincerely wish you well, my dearest lady. The master and servant were in tears, and they both saw joy in each other's eyes. Before Sushui left the house, she heard the Queen Mother instruct, "Go and check on Brother Song. After so many years, I don't know how he is doing. Mammy and she are like sisters and have known about her past. By the way, prepare some more food and wine, prepare some big fish and meat. Before it snows, the AI family will go to the Imperial Mausoleum, the immortal thing, let you see how happy the AI family is." Mammy was silent for a moment. I remember, Mr. Song is responsible for the part of the Imperial Mausoleum in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The Queen Mother raised her eyelids. Haha, does the late Emperor want to see how bright his cuckold is? Mammy frowned slightly. She met Mr. Song a few days ago, wearing a sky blue gown similar to that worn by the Queen Mother. He has a slender figure and is an elegant man. Azure has always been the Queen Mother's favorite color. Sushui went out, thinking about Fujuxiao, and planned to give him a reply. Brother Juxiao, Sushui is lucky to have fulfilled his mission and persuaded the Queen Mother. The Queen Mother smiled so happily, and she also ordered the nuns to buy a lot of new clothes. She has rekindled her desire for life, probably. She won't rush. Brother Juxiao. Sushui smiled, her little face raised, waiting for the compliment. Fu Juxiao was really surprised. The Queen Mother was obsessed with it, and he never thought that Sushui could really solve it. Really? Sushui, you are really my little blessing. Everything becomes lucky when I meet you. Fu Juxiao breathed a sigh of relief. How did you make the Queen Mother rekindle her desire for life? Fu Juxiao was very curious. Is Sushui so talkative? Sushui blinked her eyes and looked at him innocently. After the death of the late emperor, there was no one to fight in the palace, and no one to accompany her. She must have lost interest in life, so she would stare at your harem all day long. Fu Juxiao nodded, this is the reason. So Sushui advised her. I made up for the regrets of my youth while I was still young. Now, I should pursue her regrets. Fu Juxiao asked in surprise, what regrets did the Queen Mother have when she was young? Sushui snorted, I missed my childhood sweetheart fiancé. Now my fiancé is widowed. Fu Juxiao's eyes suddenly widened. Are you being too persuasive? The boards of my father's coffin can no longer be held down. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 327. Chapter 327. Sui Sui is safe. Sushui was sent back to the Yan family. Fu Juxiao didn't believe in evil and even went to the Queen Mother's palace to have a look. As soon as we got closer, we saw the closed door. The palace attendant at the door said, the Queen Mother missed the late emperor, so she just left the palace to go to the imperial mausoleum. Before leaving, she changed into her previous dress, and the Queen Mother looked radiant. The Queen Mother indeed had a deep love for the late emperor. Whenever she mentioned the late emperor, she became very energetic. Fu Juxiao took a deep breath. Having energy? The energy of the late emperor Green? Have you brought anyone with you? Fu Juxiao asked in a low voice. The palace attendant smiled and said, of course I followed the rules and only brought Mr. Song, who manages the imperial mausoleum, from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The Queen Mother also said that the death anniversary of the late emperor is coming soon, so the courtiers do not need to disturb the emperor's mausoleum this year. The Queen Mother will stay there for a longer time. I just hope it will be quieter. The little princess really knows how to persuade people. She only came for half an hour before the Queen Mother went out happily. Fu Juxiao gently pressed her eyebrows. My lord, please send someone to keep an eye on her in secret. No one is allowed to approach the imperial mausoleum and disturb the Queen Mother. He had no father-son affection towards the late emperor. After all, the late emperor had never expressed his father-son friendship for more than 10 years. Even the throne was taken by himself after he sent people to keep an eye on him secretly. Had he not acted quickly, the person sitting on the dragon throne would probably be King Jin. Fu Juxiao also understood that the Queen Mother was a measured person. When Sushui returned to the Yan family, he heard that the envoy from Mobei had come again. Sushui was a little impatient, but he loved taming animals very much, so she also taught him some secret techniques. This made the Mobei envoy express his gratitude to her. After the talks between the 6 countries, many envoys had already returned. Mobei was stunned to learn about the Chinese New Year, so he turned back in 3 steps and left reluctantly. The alliance that Baidi expected also collapsed as a result. It's New Year's Eve again, and our Sushui is 9 years old. Every year she is safe, every year she is lucky, every year she is blessed. Mrs. Lin took out a red pen and painted a little red between her eyebrows. Every Chinese New Year, elders would put red moles on children's eyebrows to ward off evil spirits. Sushui lay on her sister-in-law's belly and nodded gently, I want to be an ant. Ayu is 8 months pregnant and is about to give birth. Sushui, do you know if it's a boy or a girl? Ayu looked at her and asked her with a smile. Ayu liked girls and hoped to have a little girl who looked like Sushui. Sushui smiled and said, "You can't say that. This is a gift from God to my sister-in-law. Today is the reunion year, and the flavor of the new year is everywhere." Even Yanlang transformed into a physical form and sat with Susu. Everyone happily finished the New Year's Eve dinner, just waiting for Yan Chuan to come back from duty and watch the New Year's Eve together. There are fireworks outside the window. The house was lit with fruits and a stove. Peanuts, persimmons, and small sweet potatoes were roasting on the stove, making the house very sweet. Mr. Lin took her 2 daughters-in-law to make dumplings together and had a great time. The pot on the stove nearby was steaming, and the dumplings inside were tumbling up and down. Yan Hansheng was smoking dry cigarettes and sorting out the New Year's gifts from Sui Manchinj. Sushui looked at the dumplings. When they were steaming, her eyes suddenly lit up. She brought a large bowl and a pair of chopsticks. A bowl full of dumplings. "Mom, I'm going to play by the lake for a while." Sushui smiled. "It's snowing and the ground is slippery. Be careful not to fall. You just had dinner. Eat so many dumplings. Be careful that your stomach hurts." Ms. Lin only had time to shout, and the little girl jumped up and down holding the bowl. Went to the lake. The snow was covered with snow. Sushui held a bowl in one hand and covered the falling snowflakes with the other. She jumped onto the arch bridge. Going up to the pavilion, there is a small stove on the pavilion, where you can put it away in the evening. Sushui put down the dumplings, took out peanuts, persimmons, and sweet potatoes from his pocket, and roasted them on the fire. Then he squatted down, stretched out his index finger, and lightly flicked the snowflakes on the lotus stem. The lotus leaves are already covered with snowflakes, which have accumulated a thick layer, but the lotus stems have not been broken. "Little lotus, come out soon to watch the new year. I brought you dumplings." Mom made mutton dumplings, leek and egg dumplings, and pickled cabbage and pork fillings. Sushui lay on the waterside and shouted softly. The nickname is Little Lotus, and the big name is Peace. Peace, simplicity, is a wish she has never waited for in 2 lifetimes. "Okay, I'm going out to guard the ears." The voice was smiling, a faint golden light flashed, and Xiao Ping'an landed on the ground and transformed. "He, I asked my mother to give me some red so that I can be just like you." Yan Ping'an's eyebrows were born with a little red. Sui pointed it out and found that the two of them were 70% or 80% similar. It's just that Sushui loves to laugh, while Ping'an rarely smiles and looks quite serious. Today is the first new year in the true sense of Ping'an. "I want to spend it with you." Sushui smiled. The roasted peanuts on the table made a gentle cracking sound, and the air was filled with sweet fragrance. "Well, can I change your clothes?" Sushui coaxed Ms. Lin into making 2 identical New Year's outfits for her. At the moment she is wearing red, and Yan Ping'an is wearing light green. Yan Ping'an's eyebrows curved. "Okay." Sushui put Ping'an into a winter skirt with a snap of her fingers. Exactly the same outfit, exactly the same height, short, fat, and thin. Only the expressions are different. "Wow, only a blind person would think that Yan Jiao and I are twins." Sushui was stunned. "Really, exactly the same." Ping'an grinned slightly, and Sushui's eyes lit up. "Peace and peace, you should smile more. You look so beautiful when you smile. You are the most beautiful person in the world." Sushui smiled. Ping'an glanced at her with a smile. "Praise me, or yourself." It was obvious that the two people had exactly the same face. Sushui grinned stupidly. "Eat the dumplings quickly. Eat them while they are hot. They will cool down later. You must eat dumplings to stay up late." Sushui pulled Ping'an to sit on the stool and handed her the chopsticks. "The dumplings made by my mother are delicious. Try them. After eating them, we will be 1 year older." Ping'an looked at her with a smile in his eyes, as if he could only see Sui. Murmured, "Can you really grow up?" Of course Sushui picked up a dumpling, and Ping-an also picked up another. The two looked at each other, and the dumplings touched each other. Like a toast. The snow was falling heavily outside the pavilion, and the warmth inside the pavilion was as warm as spring. The two little guys shouted in unison, "Sushui is safe." Yan Ping'an's eyes were bright, and there was a smile in his eyes. Try the mutton dumplings, they are not sour at all, they are so fresh and tender. Mine is stuffed with leeks, can we exchange it? Using Yan Ping'an's chopsticks, the two of them ate with smiles. Sushui also broke open a roasted persimmon with a slightly burnt skin and cut each person into half, which made her feel sweet in her heart. We are real twins, we look exactly the same. How about I take you out to celebrate the new year, Sushui said excitedly. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 328. Chapter 328 Impersonating Sushui. Go out, Yan Ping'an was startled. Her lips moved, as if she wanted to say something, but she closed her mouth again. But Sushui could see that there was some resistance in her expression. Yes, Ping'an, you can already transform. There will be no problem in coming out for at least a day or two. When you are fully pregnant in the future, you will be able to be a normal person and no longer need to hide in the lotus. You can slowly adapt to the life of ordinary people. Sushui felt a little distressed when she saw her put down her chopsticks and lowered her head slightly. Sushui held her hand earnestly. It's normal for you to resist life outside. That person is not worthy of being a mother. Sushui's eyes were filled with anger. If you don't go out safely, you will never forget the past and cannot accept a new life. Ping'an shook his head and hurriedly took her hand. I don't hate her for treating me like this. I just hate her and shouldn't send you out. If you are happy, I am willing to go out with you. Ping'an looked at her seriously. Sushui's eyes were full of tears. She turned around secretly and wiped her tears. I want you to be happy. Why do you want me to be happy? They both looked at each other. As he looked at it, he burst into laughter again. It's so strange to look at myself who are exactly the same. Sometimes, I feel that we have the same heartbeat. Sometimes I feel that you are me and I am you, Sushui said with a smile. Yan Ping'an also smiled and said softly, Sushui, I wish you a happy new year. Sushui almost jumped for joy. Then, do you want me to introduce you to your parents and brothers? Sushui's eyes were bright. Ping'an shook his head, no way. Sushui was a little disappointed, but Ping'an was willing to come out, which was an excellent sign. She was willing to give Ping'an time. Then, you can pretend to be me and meet them secretly. Sushui chuckled. Yan Ping'an paused for a moment, although she didn't want to have contact with the Yan family. Even more, she didn't want to have contact with anyone except Sushui. But she wanted to meet the family who took Sushui in and raised her up. Good. My eldest brother seems to be quite talented and a handsome civil servant, you can tell at a glance. The second brother is a little who has just entered the immortal class. Third brother, he is 13 years old this year. If you talk to him, he will ignore you. Don't be angry. His voice has changed recently, like a drake. Sushui covered her mouth and snickered. When she smiles, Ping'an smiles too. Okay, she responded softly to every sentence and every instruction. She was like Sushui's little crush, holding her cheek and looking at Sushui seriously. Obviously you are the younger sister, but why do you always look like an older sister? Sushui pinched her little face, which was soft and smooth. No wonder Fujuxiao liked pinching her own face. She also likes to be pinched. Sushui held Ping'an's hand and smiled happily in the snow. I'll take you to see your mother first. Sushui smiled, holding hands and avoiding everyone, and went directly to the main room. Yanchuan happened to be back at this moment, and the room was warm and extremely lively. Go in, don't be afraid, just pretend to be Sushui's usual temperament. Sushui pushed her gently. Peaceful but a little reserved. She had never felt anything like this before. Two twins with tragic fate, although they are not very old, they both hope to cure each other at this moment. One hopes that the other person can feel the warmth and happiness of the family, and the other wants the other person to be happy. The Yan family knew that the soul of their twin sister was kept in the backyard, but they had never seen peace. Yan Ping'an stood in the ice and snow, with some snowflakes on the tips of his hair. At this moment, she reached out her hand and pushed the door gently. She was startled by the warmth that hit her face. Sushui hid in a corner so that no one would notice her. Sushui, you silly girl, what are you doing hiding at the door? Look at the snowflakes on your head, don't freeze. Mrs. Lin pulled Ping'an in through the door with quick eyes and hands. Ping'an shrank, trying to avoid the touch. But Lin couldn't let her escape, so she held her tightly, not letting go. As soon as I touched Ping'an's hand, I realized that it was so cold that it bit my bones. What did you do? Why is it so cold? Lin was shocked. Hurrying to get the heater to her side, Ayu also held her other nervous hand. Hurry up and have a cup of hot milk tea. Drink something warm. Why is it so cold? Yanchuan had just finished eating the dumplings and now he brought a cup of steaming milk tea to her. Ping'an was reserved. He glanced at Yanchuan, took the milk tea, and took a sip. It was sweet. Hey, wait a minute, that cup of yours. Yanchuan's eyes seemed to light up when he saw her take a sip. Yanchuan was startled when he saw her taking 3 or 4 sips in a row. What's wrong? Ayu looked at him. Yanchuan shook his head, it's okay. Drink more if you like. There are still many at home, Yanchuan said with a smile, and filled her with a lot of melon seeds and longan. I brought fireworks back from the palace just now, do you want to try them? Ping'an looked up at him, fireworks. Yes, you used to love playing the most. Yanchuan took out a large handful, holding fireworks in one hand and milk tea in the other. What's so good about fireworks? They were brilliant for a moment, but they were fleeting. Seeing that her hands and feet were getting warmer, Mrs. Lin let go of her. A short but brilliant life, at least it happened. I guess it has no regrets, Ping'an suddenly said. She looked at Yanchuan, her lips moved, and she hesitated for a moment. He then shouted in a low voice, brother, can you help me set off fireworks? Before Yanchuan could change into his official uniform, he smiled and said, of course you can. But you don't have enough clothes on. Why don't you wear a scarf? Lin made 2 pairs of winter coats, but the scarf was hooked slowly and was never finished. So Ping'an doesn't have a scarf. Yanchuan took off his own and wrapped it around her neck. Let's go, big brother will take you to set off fireworks. Hey, didn't you say you had delicious dumplings and went to wash up and change clothes? Mrs. Lin shouted loudly. The big one and the small one walked straight towards the door. After a while, there was a buzzing sound outside the door. Mrs. Lin laughed in the room and said, Brother Chuan is so late, and he is setting off fireworks with Sushui. Sushui is the same. In previous years, he would set off the fireworks secretly by himself. It's strange this year, I actually asked Brother Chuan to accompany me. Ayu covered her mouth and smiled with tears in her eyes. I still remember that year, His Majesty gave him a bag of cannons that would explode when dropped. She secretly hid it in her purse and was reluctant to put it all away. As a result, she lay in bed at night and the bed exploded with crackles. New Year's Day, the little guy's cry shook the earth. When everyone passed by, her face was completely blackened by the explosion, and her clothes were all torn apart. At this moment, she was looking at the fireworks with joy and cherished the light. It's like seeing it for the first time. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 329. Chapter 329. It seems that one person is coming. Ping An holds the small cluster of fire in his hands. The contrast made her eyes sparkle. Unconsciously, a small flame burned her palm. Quick, 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 let go. Why are you so stupid? Just put one down after burning it. Don't hurt your palm. Let me see. Yanchuan's eyelids twitched and he hurriedly threw down the fireworks in his hand. Hurriedly spread her hands out to check the injuries on her hands. Sure enough, there was a slight burn in the middle of the index finger. Flesh and blood are vaguely visible. The air is also filled with a faint fragrance of lotus. Yanchuan frowned, and the maid beside him said, "I'll ask the doctor to come." Yanchuan waved his hand, "No need, it's taboo at home to ask a doctor for the Chinese New Year. I have some medicine in my room, go and get some." The maid responded and soon got the medicine. Sushui has been injured since she was a child, and Yanchuan has taken care of her personally, and now he is doing it very smoothly. The maid was waiting aside, sniffing lightly, and said with a smile, "Did the girl use some new incense? She smells like lotus, just like every summer, our lake is full of lotus flowers in full bloom. It was just a faint scent just now, but now it's so obvious." Yan Ping'an suddenly pinched the wound on his index finger, lowered his head slightly, and couldn't see clearly. Yanchuan looked calm. "It's the lotus fragrance on my body. I went to the lake to pick lotus flowers in the afternoon." Yan Ping'an breathed a sigh of relief. After the bandaging was completed, she saw Yanchuan entering the house, so she opened the door to look for Sushui. But where he was, Sushui was nowhere to be seen. Ping'an paused and smiled softly. In the years when Yan Jiaojiao was sealed in the Qingzhen Marquis mansion, she wanted to destroy the world all the time. Sushui healed her little by little. "Girl, why are you standing in the snow again? The old lady is calling you and wants to give you a red envelope for New Year greetings," the maid who hurriedly came out to look for someone said with a smile. Yan Ping'an nodded, turned around and left. She raised her head and looked in the direction of the palace. At this moment, Sushui was probably looking for Fujuxiao. Strange, the girl tonight always feels weird. In the past, the girl always had a smile on her face and looked gentle and gentle. When I saw her, I couldn't help but smile from the bottom of my heart. Today's girl, I always feel that her eyes are a little cold and full of scrutiny. After safely entering the house, Yu handed her the hot milk tea. "Come and kowtow to celebrate the New Year." As soon as he finished speaking, firecrackers sounded everywhere in the capital, and fireworks also sounded in the palace. From the window, you can see the brilliant fireworks blooming in the sky. New Year's Eve. "I wish my mother a happy New Year, all the best and good health." Many children knelt at the feet of Lin and Yan Han's Hung. Susu also came out of the snow holding Yan Lang's memorial tablet, and knelt down next to Lin with a smile. Ping'an was startled for a moment. "Are you so happy?" Sister Yanchuan pulled her, and Ping'an knelt beside him, but he didn't call her father or mother. The parents in her heart are synonymous with devil. Just thinking about it at this moment made her slightly lowered eyes glow with a faint red light. Hand the thick red envelope in his hand, he suppressed the anger. Okay, it's best if everything goes smoothly for our Yan family." "Xin Chen, why are you standing in the corner? You usually pester Sushui, but you are more honest today." Mrs. Lin nodded to Xin Chen. "Head." Yan Xin Chen glanced at Ping'an, pursed his lips and called out obediently, "Sister." She is not Sushui's sister, but Sushui often takes her to play at the lake, and she has seen peace. After watching the New Year's Eve, let's go and have a rest. Tomorrow is the first day of the Lunar New Year, but we have to get up early to pay New Year's greetings, Ms. Lin said with a smile. Now that she is getting older, she has been dozing off during the New Year's Eve. Everyone went out with a smile and went back to the house to rest. When he went out, Sushui's little white tiger was lying under the eaves. At this moment, he shook off the snow all over his body and wandered over. The Tiger King has a keen sense of smell and only obeys Yan Sushui. At this moment, it was close to Anan, and Anan's footsteps paused. Yan Chuan smiled and stepped forward. Hey, brother will also send you a red envelope. You and Xin Chen are the youngest in our family. Just in time to block the white tiger's gaze. Unexpectedly, the white tiger passed by mistake. He leaned under Ping An's palm and gently twisted his head. This means asking her to touch her head. Ping An narrowed his eyes and gently rubbed its head. The white tiger looked satisfied. Oh, Xiaobai still only recognizes Sushui. We have been with Beihu for 4 or 5 years, and he doesn't even let me touch his head. Yan Ming snorted and glared at Beihu. The white tiger glanced at him with its big copper bell eyes, then turned around silently, facing him with its buttocks. Sister, sister, look at it, it's almost a sperm. It's not happy. Yan Ming was helpless. Ping An grinned stupidly. Yan Chuan glanced at Baihu, silently retreated to his wife's side, and continued to hold Ayu's arm. Ayu glanced at him in surprise. Her husband was a little strange today. He always protected Sushui intentionally or unintentionally. Okay, let's all go back to sleep. Brother Chuan will have to go to the palace to pay New Year's greetings tomorrow, everyone said with a smile. The maid led Ping An forward. She was familiar with Sushui's room. Sushui will eat a lot of food that will make her angry tonight, so prepare more tea for her. The fireworks have just been set off. She is smelling like fireworks. Prepare a bucket of hot water for her. Yan Chuan ordered his servants before leaving. Yes. After returning to the room, Ping An retreated to his left and right sides. With no one around, she relaxed her shoulders and breathed a sigh of relief. She is now in the form of a golden lotus and cannot live without water. When she enters the room, she sees teacups placed on the table. He hurriedly poured himself 4 or 5 glasses before putting down the glass. He took off his clothes again and soaked in the bathtub for half an hour before he became energetic again. At this moment, sitting on the bedside wearing Sushui's pajamas, she guessed that Yan Chuan had probably guessed her identity. She couldn't figure out what went wrong. But thinking about it, this family has risked their lives several times to protect Sushui. Sushui's habits are engraved in their bones, so it's normal to recognize them. Hingping didn't sleep. He just lay quietly on the bed, thinking about every day and night he was trapped in Chengyinho Mansion. Loneliness, and gloom, and the pain that can never be shaken off. Her body is always cold. My heart is cold, my hands and feet are also cold. Ms. Lin had just finished soaking her hands and feet, and they were now cold again. It turns out that it's like this to lie in a warm bed and have family members caring for you, Ping An murmured in a low voice, covering Sushui's quilt, and there was a reassuring smell in her nose. Unknowingly, I fell asleep. This was the only peaceful sleep she had had in so many years. The dream is warm and soft, without hunger or coldness, nor the terrifying recurring past. There is a fragrant smell between the nostrils, there is no vomiting blood, and there is no shrill wailing from her. It turned out that she was also looking forward to warmth. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 330. Chapter 330. The Lantern That Defies Destiny. The sky was slightly bright, and Ping An opened his eyes. There were maids on duty outside the house, and everyone lowered their voices. It was just dawn, and only a faint light could be seen. Ping An's bedside had already placed brand new clothes, a set of light green long skirts. Ping An fell in love with it at first sight. She carefully folded the red color that Sushui gave her. She will keep it well. She wants to wear the same outfit as Sushui, because it means that she is also a human being and is her real twin. Today, wear what she likes. One likes red and the other likes green, which are somewhat different. Heping put on a new dress and stood in front of the mirror and looked around. She, who never liked to smile, grinned slightly. She was about to go out when she saw something that seemed to be placed in the corner of the room. It was completely covered by a piece of black cloth and placed quietly in the corner. There was a layer of dust on it and no one cleaned it, which showed that no one was allowed to touch it. Hing Ping Ping paused, and then someone sent him forward and lifted up the black cloth. Under the black cloth is a mirror. A stone mirror covered upside down. It looks simple and unpretentious, just an ordinary stone mirror that can't even reflect a human figure. She turned over the mirror safely, and the mirror flashed across her cheek. On the stone mirror, a flash of white light flashed. The mirror of reincarnation that once failed to reflect Sushui's previous life actually showed an appearance of peace at this moment. Looking at everything in the mirror calmly, his face turned slightly pale. After a long time, a crack suddenly appeared in the middle of the mirror. Especially when the Emperor of Heaven appeared in the 18th level of Hell, Ping'an took a deep breath and slammed the mirror back on. She was panting heavily, and her forehead was covered with cold sweat on a cold winter day. The stone mirror was full of tiny cracks and it was broken. Ping'an calmed down his emotions, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, covered the stone mirror with the black cloth again, and then walked out of the room. Why does the girl get up so early? This is the first time that I have seen a girl get up early in the many years I have been in the Yan family, especially on the first day of the new year. It was Lin who coaxed her up every time. Ping'an smiled and followed Sushui's habit and distributed red envelopes to everyone. Everyone thanked her with smiles and forgot to ask about getting up early. Mrs. Lin's eyes widened when she saw her getting up early. She was the daughter she raised, and she knew it well. The fried meatballs are so fragrant, it wakes me up. Ping'an touched her belly, and Mrs. Lin smiled and gave her a bowl of small meatballs. It's just time to have breakfast together. There are people guessing lantern riddles and singing songs in Beijing today, which is really lively. Ping'an smiled and nodded. Everyone had breakfast. Yan Chuan wanted to say something before leaving, but he saw a little girl wearing a mask standing outside the door. Yan Chuan glanced at her blankly, then left home with a smile. Sushui grinned and hurriedly crawled through the dog hole to find safety. Ping'an, Ping'an, come out quickly, I'll take you shopping. It's so lively today. Sushui put on a white tiger mask, and Ping'an looked at her in surprise. Where did you go last night? Ping'an asked. I went to the palace. I went to celebrate the new year with brother Juxiao. Sushui waved her hand. Sushui took out a small snack from the space. Eat quickly, eat it while it's hot. I brought this from the palace. The little guy was very protective of his food and was only generous to Ping'an. Ping'an twisted a piece. Oh, you don't like white radish either, I hate it too. Which snack do you like best? Me too, I also like it the most. Hey, you don't want to eat this milk bar either, I hate it too. Sushui magically discovered that she liked the food, and so did Ping'an. She hates food, and so does Ping'an. She happily pulled Ping'an out of the dog hole. Ping'an got out, and she followed closely. Smiling, the smile stopped. Sushui raised her head and looked at Ping'an in confusion. It's over, her stomach is stuck in the dog hole again. Sushui's face turned red. She looked at Ping'an with embarrassment. Ping'an, hey, could you please help me? The dog hole was dug too small, and he couldn't climb out after eating 2 more bowls of rice each time. It was a little tight when I climbed in just now. Then I ate some snacks and got stuck. Ping'an burst into laughter. Took her hard and pulled her out. Bang! Sushui was pulled out, and the two of them staggered and fell to the ground. The two looked at each other and laughed out loud. Sushui patted the dust on his body and held Ping'an's hand tightly. Come on, Ping'an, come with me. Hum with me. Sushui pulled her forward, but Ping'an only had her eyes in his eyes. 2 girls, One is wearing red and the other is wearing green. One person holds a bunch of candied haws in his hand. One of us is holding milk tea in our hands, you take a sip and I take a sip, it's very intimate. You two look like twins. Obviously this girl didn't even show her face. The old lady selling candied haws on a stick looked at the two girls and said with a smile. Sushui touched the mask on her face and smiled. Then he pulled Pingan and squeezed into the crowd. With Pingan, I guessed lantern riddles and won many beautiful lanterns. These small lanterns can be lit on fire after making a wish. You can put it into the water and let it drift, and then it will come true, the boss who guessed the lantern riddle said with a smile. Really, let's go put out the lanterns in peace. Sushui pulled her and squeezed towards the river. At this moment, there are about a dozen lanterns placed on the ground. Everyone looked at them with envy and admiration. Being able to win so many lanterns shows that he has excellent literary talent. How about we come and make a wish too? At this moment, the river was filled with lanterns, and lights were lit everywhere, which looked particularly beautiful. Pingan said softly, "Okay." Sushui lit 2 lanterns, one for herself and one for Pingan. Then he held the lantern in his palms and silently made a wish in his heart. After making the wish, he gently pushed the lantern into the water. Wow, the lanterns are floating away, the lanterns are going to. Sushui's tone paused. I saw that the lantern was actually spinning around in place, not drifting with the tide. The lanterns of everyone nearby are swimming forward. That little lotus lantern was even submerged a little bit and sank into the water a little bit. Hey, how could this happen? Sushui stamped her feet angrily. Don't worry, little girl, some of these lanterns are not ready yet, and they will sink. There are so many of you, just keep putting them up, someone next to me comforted them. Sushui thought about it, too. Then he smiled and said to Pingan, "Pingan, let go." Hong Kong finished his wish in a low voice and pushed the lantern into the water. The white rabbit lantern only swayed in the water and sank directly into the water. The 2 sisters frowned. What wish did you make? Wish all the boats to sink? Did you wish for peace in the world? Everyone was helpless. Seeing that the 2 sisters looked ugly, they all joked. No one thought much about it. You can see the 2 sisters lighting the lamp again in silence. Push into the water again. The lantern sank into the water again. Put it on again. Sink again. Put it on again. Sink again. At this moment, there is an eerie silence in the small corner where the lanterns are placed. Everyone looked at them in shock. Suddenly I'm curious, what exactly did you promise? End of this chapter.